Hey guys, so I had recorded a video on interactive brokers on this wick concept on the Euro USD, and then I opened that up on Thinkorswim, and then I realized that we had gone over this exact same pair with Bader last week before the news announcements, and we had called the very top and the very bottom, and I drew it out on here, but I explained it on interactive brokers because I already filmed that video. So he can vouch for the story, but it's cool because I didn't realize it was the same pair. I just opened up Euro USD on IBKR and started explaining that. And then I realized that it was the exact same thing we had gone over with, Bader last week. So as you can see here, we had called the very bottom and the very top, when we talked about it. And, we worked our way down from the weekly down to, I think the hourly when we did it together. But you will see how this actually played out. That again, we recorded or we worked through before the news announcements, I think on like 3-4, 3-3, yeah, 3-3-3-4, something like that, 3-1. Anyway, guys, so I hope that you find the video helpful, and you will see how what we had drawn out, how we drew it out, and exactly why and how it worked out. So picking up a little bit on what we were talking about last week, if you see here the Euro USD pair on the Wicks, so there was quite a news announcement yesterday. You can see like a lot of the wicks here have been eaten. So if you look at like these were eaten away. And then, you know, if you were to bring your line down here, this would be the next available set of wicks. And so in that point, you can kind of see here how in the news announcement, so now let's go down to the daily. And I think a lot of this that I'm saying about the wicks, a lot of times it can even just help you find a supply and demand area. And I'll show you that in just a second. But you can see how it came down to that previous weekly, daily. So if you were to cut away at the bars and cut down, these would be the next set of wicks that you would have had based on the higher time frame. And a lot of times, especially with like big news announcements like this, I will do the higher time frame and kind of work my way from there. But if you had cut all these out and then just drag your line, you know, as things progress, you would drag your line from here and then you would drag it to the next available set. This will be the very top, and this is exactly where it cut into. And this is roughly, so now I'm going to cut down to the daily. And this is roughly a 30 pip-ish zone, it looks like. So now let's go down to the daily, and then I'll show you how it kind of works out even in the smaller time frames. So if we go down to the daily, you can see here that it is, you know, right in here, it tested almost pretty much midway through that. And if you were to apply the quarters theory, you know, you could do the 1175, or yeah, whatever. That's not really the point of this video. You could see that it filled this, and then it came back to, if you cut the smaller time frame, so down to the 4 hour. And this is why I spliced them from highest to lowest. So, you know, before the news happened, it was kind of, you know, just dabbling right there in the middle. But you can see here that even if you cut to the 4 hour, it came exactly down to where we had drawn our previous unfilled orders, like I like to call them last week. And it came in and it pretty much based, and again, that's where I do like the 1 minute for confirmation and like to pull the trigger and get in on the 1 minute, not because I'm trading the 1 minute, but because I want to front run everyone else. And I'll look for maybe a supply demand zone in those wicks. But it came right down to that perfectly. And then as you can see here, it came right up to these these wicks made and or left in the 4 hour time frame, and it is exactly testing those. So even if you cut down to, so this is the 4 hour, you can see how it was a perfect move into those like wicks of what I like to think of them as unfilled orders. If you were to cut or raise this to the 1 hour, you can kind of see how they work pretty perfectly. And then from here, I'll begin to like add the supply and demand strategies once I refine the time frames and cut down. But from a broad scope perspective, I do like to work my way down. And then even if it's just to kind of train my eye of where the unfilled orders might be, and then find a supply and demand area within those, it is Forex, so I do like to apply the quarter theory. But you can see how pretty perfectly these things work. So it's cutting into this now, and that's when I will, let's say, cut into the smaller time frames and see if it's lower lows or lower highs and lower highs and lower highs, and really refine my entries that way. So as you can see here, all of these are pretty much being eaten away, and even in the 15-minute, you can kind of see how, you know, it is, you know, orders are coming in, but it's pretty much killing them off. And so then you can really begin to refine that. You can cut down to the 5-minute and so on and so forth. And then again, I like to get in and out of on the 1 minute, not trade out of there. So as you can see here, even in the 1 minute, it was eating this, and then it started to, you know, on the really refined 1 minute, it started to really eat into that. So even if we move this up here on the 1 minute, we can see it's the top of the wick on the 5-minute, the top of the, you know, up here on the 4-hour, and then work our way backwards, and then up at the very, very top of the daily. So it's pretty perfectly, and again, you can go from the 1 minute to the largest and just confirm and kind of go in back and forth, and then find the unfilled orders within that. And, you know, so on the 1 minute here, I could be looking to maybe consider going short, as, you know, maybe as it breaks, you know, one of these pivots on the 1 minute. But again, we're not trading off of it, but it's a confirmation for me out of all of these. And so in a lot of ways, that's why I find that this is kind of leading, or you can be leading to the supply and demand. So let's go up to higher on the weekly candles. So just going back and just a quick overview, I would have probably started with I would start with like the monthly, drawing those here. If I didn't see this move prior, you know, and then I would have cut down to the weekly. On the weekly, I would have then kind of seen that. So let's zoom out a little bit. So then on the weekly, I would have seen this, and then would have, you know, cut it down. Let me remove this trend line. Then I would have, you know, modified this down here. Maybe look and then cut down to the daily. And then we would have found this. And then in here, we could maybe zoom in a little more. And then you can kind of dissect the supply and demand area within this. And it's just kind of training your eye to find like even just really good setups. Like if we go back in time here, so just off of drawing these wicks from, you know, being eaten away, you know, these previous wicks, and then kind of working or modifying them and cutting them down from there. If we go back in time all the way down to the 4-hour, we could kind of see a pretty great demand area here, where you see the rally, base rally, and then price kind of took off from there. But if you were to be looking at the daily chart just at face value, you would have maybe made this one the rally base rally, and then you would have missed it. But because we went down and we kind of did it based on wicks, we were still in it. Because if you went off of the wicks, you would have cut this out and you would have just been here. Well, if we're gonna be honest, we'll be here on the daily. And so then when we go to the present time, you maybe would have missed that. But if you had gone off the wicks, you would have been okay. And or you could have also said, well, I would have taken this whole demand area, right, on the off of the daily, and then that would have worked. But then again, your risk is now quite a bit bigger, and the wicks are still pretty exact. So again, I love supply and demand. I will never, like, I really do. But maybe if you're newer and you're just getting started, this way of like working down the way in wicks, it could maybe really be helpful even to find the best supply and demand area. Because, you know, if you had gone off of if you had cut down even to the 4-hour and whatever, the supply zone you may have been in, you may have, or the demand zone you may have been in, you may have not been in. If you're really good like Sam, I'm sure you would have been. But for someone just getting started, taking the Wicks as food for thought and just looking at the zones. Again, if you were to overlay even the quarter theory onto something like this, you do have like the 5-0, right? So 11850, but I don't want to get too caught up in that because that, that's too confusing. But let's go down now to the smaller time frame. So, because that's kind of my point, is that the Wicks, you'll see them in all time frames. So here, the origin of the move. So we're here at the daily. So now let's look at the 4 hour. So if you can see here on the 4 hour, it actually didn't touch that demand, but it did go into the wick, the unfilled orders there. And you can also see how prior to the news, like it was kind of like diddling in the middle. And you can see here how it closed that pretty perfectly just off of that. Even if the 4 hour wick, and you can even do it on the 1 hour, I'm sure. Let's go to the 1 hour. And on the 1 hour, you can see it closed it pretty perfectly, and now it's fighting that whole zone. So this is also in a lot of ways how I prefer to do curve, because this is actually pretty absolute. Whereas to curve, maybe in my opinion, or maybe I just don't understand curve as well, but it's just, for me, it's open to so much interpretation. Whereas to this is pretty absolute. Before we went into announcements, we were pretty wicky here, and it closed it closed that pretty perfectly from the weekly down the daily, down the 4 hour, down the hourly. And if we look at the 15-minute, it's probably just as exact. Yeah. So, again, guys, this is just food for thought. If nothing else, you can just use it to find unfilled orders or to look at better entries, maybe for supply and demand zones. But for me, it was just really helpful to understand, or to think of the Wicks as like almost like spears on fire coming down on unfilled cash orders and just burning away at the cash orders. And even down on you can see even on the 4 hour, the 15-minute. Let's go down to the present. Now, let's go into our present. You can see them work pretty perfectly. Like they do. This filled it exactly from the daily, weekly, 4 hour. So yeah, guys, to the 15, I think to the, even on the one, and I'm sure you can dissect the 15-minute if you want to, but it's just for example, just food for thought. But even here on the 15, so from weekly to the 15, it has worked pretty perfectly. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments below, if it was or wasn't, and, happy trading, guys. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you guys, Beta and everyone else, for making this group possible. And I hope this was, helpful. All right, bye guys. Any final notes or questions, let me know in the comments below. I did coincidentally do this on the Euro USD that I had gone over, like I said, with Beta, and it was, my point is, I applied the exact same process to all of my Forex trades, and I couldn't even tell that it was a pair we had already looked at. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and have a fantastic rest of your day.